excited to hear your testimony. And as you know, because you've been watching this all day, how this goes, we are going to introduce ourselves. And if you could then introduce yourselves, we'll be ready to get started with the question. So I'm Dr. Marcy Taylor-Toma, and I direct a program that's called the Maryland Council for Civic and History Education, where I manage We the People, SEH programs, and Project Citizen.
Hi, my name is Linda Frascarella, and I'm currently retired. I used to work for Discovery Education, and we built a lot of technology products that you may have used in the classroom. We brought videos like Mythbusters, Bill Nye the Science Guy into your classrooms. Now I do a lot of volunteer work with the League of Women Voters, and we like to educate the community about the importance of voting and getting involved in elections. So I'm looking forward to learning from you today.
My name is Bobby Goldman. I'm a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary. We're a group that helps veterans. Our post is right behind your school. You actually built the school on land that we sold you, so that's why you're called the Veterans Elementary School. We can hear you when you're on recess sometimes because we're that close, and you be loud.
Young people, could you please begin by introducing yourself?
안녕하세요. My name is Sean. When I grow up, I'd like to be studying colleges because I like dinosaurs and want to discover new species. Hola, my name is Christian. When I grow up, I want to be a professional soccer player because I really enjoy playing soccer and look forward to it. Hello, my name is Talia, and when I grow up, I would like to be a volleyball player because I love volleyball and I play volleyball with my friends and my family.
Salutations, my name is Ariana, and when I grow up, I want to be an author because I would really like to find a job based on authenticity, and I like to express my idealism, learn, create, and happy.
Nice to meet you. My name is Yun, and when I grow up, I want to be a chef, a journalist, or a marine biologist because I love cooking, playing viola, and sea creatures. We are the civil soldiers.
Civil soldiers, I love that. Congress has formed this congressional committee to gather information about the United States Americans government. You've been called as the expert witnesses to appear before our committee to share your knowledge and your opinions. You will now have 4 minutes to have your testimony. You're going to time for us. And you may begin whenever you are ready.
Equality seems to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That was said by Thomas Jefferson, right? I think this idea comes from the Declaration of Independence, which Thomas Jefferson helped write. I believe it means that everyone should be treated equally and have the same rights and opportunities.
That's a good point. Everyone should be equal because of civil rights. Even though civil rights have changed over time. How has civil rights changed over time?
People have benefited by working together through cooperation, shared ideas, and different perspectives to solve problems they cannot solve alone. But people can also face challenges like disagreements, unclear rules, or not working well together. Does anyone mind giving us a historical example?
Sure. The NAACP was created to fight for equal rights for Black Americans. It was founded in 1909 and was launched in 1906 when the was raised white, which was when violence against the Black community highlighted the need for organized civil rights advocacy. The organization was founded in 1909 in New York City by activists such as Ida B. Wells, Archibald Brinkley, Mary White Arlington, and others helped shape civil rights.
But how did they benefit and be challenged by teamwork?
The organization benefited because everyone shared one goal and brought different ideas together, but they also faced discrimination, threats, and violence. Some members were jailed or even lost their lives, but they continued working together.
Government laws helped advance civil rights by adding more amendments and laws that protected citizens, such as the 1st, 13th, and 14th Amendments. The problem is that these changes took a long time. Slavery was not abolished in 1865. I think the government eventually advanced civil rights, but it took too long. Why do you say that? The government abolished slavery in 1865, and some people believe there are still unjust systems today. For example, some prisoners are paid very little or not all for the work they do in prison, even though a law in the U.S. says that every American must get paid $7.25 an hour.
Civil rights are important because they help everyone have equal rights. For example, the Federal Museum helps us make civil rights equal to all races.
I see. civil rights don't only protect some Americans.
Of course not. Civil rights protect everybody regardless of ethnicity, gender, religion, or disabilities. They help make sure people are treated equally and have freedom. They also prevent discrimination and protect people's rights.
And because of civil rights, people can protest, stand up against unfairness, and have their own beliefs. We have freedom and can make our own choices because of civil rights.
I think the First Amendment changed over time because at first it mainly focused on freedom of speech, religion, and press. Over time, more people gained those freedoms.
Could you give us an event to help us understand?
One example is Rachel Carson and her book Silence Word, providing warning people about dangerous pesticides like DDT. The First Amendment protected the freedom of the press, and her work helped stop modern environmental movements.
Educational institutions address inequalities by creating programs in colleges for African Americans, so they can receive education, jobs, and opportunities. One example was the Freedmen's Bureau.
Today, schools are no longer legally segregated by race. The Freedmen's Bureau helped improve education after slavery ended. For example, HBCUs have given many people opportunities for education and careers.
Wow, civil rights really have changed a lot over the years.
Yeah, it shows how much our country has evolved. Right now, people still fight for civil rights. Kind of like how just yesterday, Republicans in the South Carolina Senate rejected a restricting bid, the Trump Act.
The USA still has a long way to go. It's not perfect, but it has advanced and we can still make it better.
That's true. Thank you for listening to our speech.
Okay, now we have 6 minutes of questions to ask you. Are you ready? And you can relax a little bit.
All right.
Begin.
Which civil right do you think is the most important and why?
I think the most important civil right is the 14th Amendment, which gives birthright to citizens born in the U.S. Because I believe without this amendment, the USA would be lacking rights for citizens born in it, which many people would not like, and that would decrease the population and the power of the U.S.
I think the First Amendment, freedom of speech, is the most important because it lets everyone talk about what they want and say their word and what is right.
I agree with you. I think that the First Amendment is the most important because it gives these 5 freedoms: speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. Freedom of religion is important because it allows individuals to freely practice their religion without any government interference. Then, as Liam said, freedom of speech, which allows people to speak their own mind and stand up for their own beliefs. Freedom of assembly, which allows people to peacefully gather for anything like protests or agreements. I also think that the First Amendment is important and an important cornerstone for civil rights.
How have historically black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, worked to increase civil rights for all people?
HBCUs have helped increase civil rights for all people by giving the people where the government did not give the education they need. They let everyone get education and they cannot be discriminated with the lack of education. Because when the first 15th Amendment was made, there was loopholes where you had to take an education test to actually vote. Black African Americans could not do that. They would need an education to HBCUs gave you the opportunity.
How might the I'm sorry. I don't think you want me to ask that question. How are people working together today to improve our community? Can you give us some examples?
I think people in our community are working to move together today by ending like slavery, discrimination, segregation,
to kids at least.
Do you think the Freedmen's Bureau was a success? Why or why not?
I think the Freedmen's Bureau was a success because even though it ended, it still helped a lot of people. They still help people after being slaves after slavery was abolished, find their families again. They help people get married. And they built over 4,000 schools and HBCUs to help educate those in need.
I agree with Sean. Although the organization had to be stopped, they still aided many African Americans by providing food, temporary shelter, medicine, and clothing. Don't forget, they also aided to 4 million freed slaves.
What has the government done to limit and increase civil rights of people?
I think the government has limited and increased some rights for civil people. They have also, one main idea for them increasing civil rights is for women with Title IX. They gave women more education, more rights to participate in sports.
I think the government has helped to increase and limit civil rights by letting people like African Americans, women, and blacks to have like our equal rights and rights and men.
What role do you think schools should play in advancing civil rights?
Schools should play a role in advancing civil rights by giving those who need an education, because they are now public schools, so everyone can get education for free when they need it. They should also help teach about no discrimination and segregation. They should also teach about our history and what flaws we had so we can improve our nation.
I think that schools should teach students current events in order to advance civil rights, because age-appropriate reasons, case studies, and interactable activities can make these concepts more relatable. Don't forget that teachers are also our mentors in life. So while they're teaching important things that can happen in your life, they should also teach kids how to treat other people so that they can prevent bullying and discrimination.
I think schools can help with civil rights by, like, I agree with Sean, like ending segregation and discrimination among all races, religion, and gender, and also by teaching us about historical events in civil rights, because a few, I think, like 2 weeks ago, the government decided to change the voting laws again, and knowing about historical events can help you know like how many people got helped by the voting law.
I think schools should teach students how to treat everybody equally, no matter what gender, race, or religion, or disabilities they have.
Well done.
Now we're going to give you some feedback.
We've seen several of these today, and you are the first ones to bring up Title IX. You're the first ones to mention that the role of schools is that one of the things that schools can do is to teach what America's flaws are, so that you can all feel empowered to fix them. When you really, really love something, you love the good and bad things about it. You're the first ones to mention the NAACP, and you mentioned 1909. You are the first ones to talk about freedom of speech and mention a novel, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. And I really appreciate that you were looking at things from, a really different angle. Put things in a really good perspective. You mentioned several times that things take a long time. The civil rights movement is still a thing. It didn't stop with the passage of the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act. And you mentioned how, a lot of the early activists, were threatened. They were, they faced violence, they faced jail. And I hope that now that you all know that you appreciate what you have and that you work really hard to value it and to use it constructively. I also am really glad that you guys really, you mentioned very, very recent things. Like, there's current examples, and then there's the South Carolina ruling that happened yesterday. There's current examples, and then there's stuff that happened yesterday. That's as current as you can get, unless something's happened, like since we've been sitting here. And you also mentioned the Supreme Court's recent ruling on the Voting Rights Act. That was just a couple weeks ago. And I'm glad that you're still learning and that you appreciate that civil rights is still an ongoing process. It's not a thing that happened, it's a verb that's just still verbing.
This group had amazing eye contact. I mean, maybe it's because we're over here to the side, I don't know. But you guys, when we were asking the questions, like everybody you all looked directly at us when you answered the questions and just seemed so mature and professional. I can't even tell you, that was fantastic. And I was wondering, did they have a spy in the other room when I casually brought up Title IX? Because then you guys brought up Title IX in here, like you said, the first group to bring it up.
Yeah.
So a general thing I will say is that each one of you talked about how, so-and-so didn't work alone. They didn't work alone. Teamwork is important. And one of you, I don't know if it was Christian or Leah, but